I've just rubbed down some oil, medium, on this portrait, and this is so it's called oiling out, and I just find it really useful when I'm starting to do a glaze. It just helps the paint slip around a little bit more easily. It just has a lovely sensation, as opposed to it can get quite scratchy if the surface isn't prepared in this way. So I'm going to start this glaze, and first I've got I'm just going to use a bit of alizarin crimson, and in this particular portrait it's possibly going to have a little bit more of this red. Don't want to go too much. The raw sienna, and then this is a warm sap green. It's cooled it down, but I'm just going to mix up a sort of base, just get a feel for the colour as I'm going. So it can take a little bit of time. Even just maybe that's a bit too warm, so I'm just putting in a tiny bit of this is ultramarine blue, just to cool it ever so slightly. And this is, I'm going to go, firstly I like to go into the shadow tones. So I'll just go all over, let's try and cover that. Yeah, so I'm happy with that. It's a warm colour, but not too warm. And as I've said before, this can apply for the hair as well. But the hair, and my reference, the sitter, it's sort of strawberry blonde, really, just slightly reddish tint. Okay, and I can work into this after. So I'm just going to go over. Definitely helps there. In this first glaze, I think I'll keep it quite subtle and not try and do everything in one go. So now, this is cadmium red. I'm just mixing it around. I just don't want too much red, too much paint on the brush, so I'm just drying it out. Also got a muslin here that I can just use to wipe some of the paint off if it gets too much. So definitely the nose is usually a bit redder. And I can see, the grey is going to cool everything down anyway, so if it's just a little bit, that works very well. That's one of the points of the grisaille, that it's always going to show through. I'm just not going to worry. When I'm filmed, I might rush it a bit. I'm going to try not to. And I don't want to put on too much paint. That's happened in some previous portraits where I've wanted to just show how it works, but again, I don't want to overdo it. It's just the base coat, so further glazes, I can just do anything I want. I'm just preserving the drawing, and all sorts of colours can go on top of these original colours and utterly transform it, just in a very, very subtle glaze. So it's fine. This is the hair is pretty close to some of the shadow tones. Actually looking at it, and I'm going to get a bit of yellow in there. So, well, this is raw sienna. That's good halfway. I'm just mixing in a tiny bit of oil, the medium. Maybe I'll just go over all of the hair. And I'll use a sable brush to just smooth some of these marks because the hog's hair is quite crude. I mean, it's got a lovely sensation. I've always loved working with hog's hair brushes, and so definitely my favourite. But just for a glaze, maybe to just iron out some of the lines that you get from the actual hairs in the hog's hair brush. The sable's the one to go for. So yeah, I can see that for this raw sienna and alizarin crimson, it's going to work pretty well for some of the areas in the shadow of the hair. Again, I'm just feeling my way with it. It's quite red, quite warm, but it's, I'll just soften it a little bit. Just spread it around. The original grisaille is completely visible, and this is my, as I wrote on my blog, it's the anchor that will just tie everything down, so everything can sort of float around on top, and I just don't have to worry as long as I'm not putting on too much. It's just not committing yourself to too much in one go. Actually, the original reference has a lot of shadow in this area, which I will probably paint back in. I didn't like it at first, but she's sitting up against a chair, and I was going to paint that out and just have a sort of neutral background. I'm not sure if I will paint the actual chair, but I'm definitely going to paint the shadow, so she'll be she's going to be leaning up against something. If that doesn't make any sense and it looks odd that there's a shadow but no reference to a chair, I might just put just the line of the back of the chair. We'll just see how that goes later. I mean, I can paint it in, and if I don't like it, I'll just remove it, just have a look. But I'll show you that in, further glaze. But it's a lot darker here, which brings out the colours of the ear and the neck a little bit more. It looks very Technicolor now. More red in there, a bit warmer. Something right around here. I'll just put that in. It's too much. But certainly in some of these shadows in the hair. Glazing is a great technique for painting hair because, I mean, hair has that soft focus because it's just millions of fibres that you can't necessarily see with the eye, but they soften it as you look at it. And so working over it and over it with a brush like this, just the hog's hair, it's quite good because it's leaving the little lines. So just with a sweep of the brush, you're drawing each individual hair. It's looking a bit red, a bit too red, but we'll see. Yeah, I've got some cooler sap green here, so I need to get quite dark now into the two different sap greens. These are very strong. I'll just mix some, just a base. Maybe a tiny bit of yellow. And that's quite close to it in a way, well, when it's spread over the painting. Just has to be thinly done. That's a good little shadow area there, and it's very, very dark behind this ear. So actually maybe I can just fill in this shadow. It's not going to be this colour in the end, but I can easily go over it with a blue and completely change it. There are just a few strands of hair around there anyway. It just brings out the ear a little bit. I'm not going to try and put on too much and finish it in this go, but I'll do enough so that you know, the foundation's laid. Obviously the grisaille is that anyway, but I'm just sort of further strengthening that and deepening it. It's just little hints. There are a lot of, actually, it's very sort of blue tones, just lovely. I mean, that will be brilliant later to be able to do that with just you know, when I've got the highlights in, just a tiny glaze of blue will just be really beautiful around there. It's getting too yellow. Just a tiny bit of oil, don't want to overdo it. The neck is very kind of almost orange actually, just there. I don't know, that's, so you can see it's just a bit too much medium around there. So what I can do is just pick the paint off with a muslin or a piece of tissue, ideally cloth, so you don't leave any sort of fibres. And then it picks it off again. It'll just pull it around, just pull it off, spread it a bit more. I haven't done this shadow. I'll go over that. Oh, it's really pinker. Pink blush around the nose and her eyes, and then later there'll be some cool blues going over that. So now this is quite good, just a base to help the highlights. It's not the right colour, but the right colour's on the way. This is going to be a challenge, just to really create the fullness of her cheeks as she smiles. I was looking at a lovely El Greco portrait of a lady wearing she's got a fur coat. I can't remember the exact title, but it's just an exquisite modelling of the lady's cheek, and I think he's literally done it with a grisaille, but then the cheek itself is just modelled with this beautiful, beautiful red, like a crimson. If it's too warm, I'm going to add some greens and blues later. So it's fine. It's just fine to go over in this way and just really guess. I'm just guessing and getting a feel for it. And sometimes it can be later in the fourth glaze or fifth glaze that things will become clear. And the right way to proceed sort of just opens up. It's okay to model it with the hogshead brush at the moment. It's quite a lot there. Maybe I'm just going to just see. That's going to be much brighter than the original grisaille actually. I've just noticed the grisaille was too dark there. It's actually pink before it gets to her lips. Got this other one, I think it's called quadrichrome. I'll have to look it up and write it down so I can remember and tell you. I've always found a useful thing as you progress is to just do the eyes, because it just looks a bit weird if you haven't got anything on the eyes and they're grey and everything else is coloured. So here I'm just going to use some of this raw sienna. It's definitely very warm. The sap green, is that too much? So just feeling my way with it. It'll be enough just to just give a hint. So I mean that's very sort of extreme. I've got this darker glaze mixed up. That's going to work quite well for the eyelashes and around some of the shadow in the eyes. I'll just have a go at that. I need to get some velaturas going soon because everything's starting to look very technicolor, so I can just add some white, start to just pick out some of the highlights. Again, not too much. Now it's just pure red straight on there, and that seems to be working quite well actually. Just to pick out here. Too much. It's just too much, but that's okay for now. I'll just get the sable on there. Quite blue, and under here, it's not blue, it's more pink. And this chin is quite blue as well, just there. Just around here. And the whites of the eyes are blue. Well, they're just not white basically, so I can go over them again. But if any of this is too warm or not right, I'll just go over it again later. For example, around here, it's quite cool. I haven't quite got there yet, but it's so easy and probably nicer and more effective and more beautiful to wait, let the paint dry, and then go over it with just a thin glaze again. I mean, that would just be really, really lovely. That drawing here isn't right, that's too dark, so I'm just going to go over that just with that. Just like adding another little bit of grisaille over the top. There's definitely an eyebrow in there, it's weird. Just got some more blue here in this shadow. It's a lot lighter there. And it's just pink around the cheek. Right, now I'm just going to blend in, and that'll be the last for this glaze, and I'll film the next glaze. It's it's a beautiful sable brush to use. Just really soft. Just blending the colours. I'm not too fussy, but I don't want it to be messy. So, and I'm just pinching it to take off any excess paint. and just go into the velatura here and just blend it a little bit. It's a second glaze, just with a fine sable brush and velaturas. You can really blend into the first one. You've still got the grisaille there, and create some beautiful effects really quickly. And, you know, in some of the other films I've gone as I said, I've gone deliberately very fast in the first glaze, but in a way, you know, this is fine just to get to this sort of stage.